So I just had this video pop up in my recommendeds on YouTube all about weed addiction and the so-called benefits of quitting weed, and it was by this guy, and I watched about 4 minutes of the video, and unfortunately the guy, he came across in the video very much as though he was stoned during the video, which I found kind of jarring. But he'd apparently quit weed for X amount of time, and his life had radically improved or whatever. But considering like how um just like slightly off he seemed in the video. Like I wouldn't have believed that his life was in a good place from having watched it. And I don't know. I've never come across. I've been around an inordinate amount of people who smoke weed in my time. I've never really encountered someone who I would have said was an addict to weed. I really don't think it is possible to be addicted to weed. Not in anything like the same terms that it's possible to have an addiction to nicotine or to cigarettes. And I bought this stupid fucking thing today as well. This costs 8 or 9 quid, and I very much doubt it will see me through to the middle of the day tomorrow, considering how much I draw on the fucking things. Like, it's enticing watermelon flavour. That's why I fucking bought it. Well, that's what it's almost 10 quid. That's a 10 bag of weed I could be fucking very well easily buying instead of this. But I mean, just to give an analogy, to analogize this, right? So I smoke weed regularly. Not regularly, semi-regularly. Or really, I smoke it whenever I can smoke it. I love weed. I love smoking weed to bits. I think it's like one of the best drugs I've ever taken. It's far better than alcohol. It's far better in terms of the high it gives you, the experience it gives you, in terms of the physiological effects of it, of which with weed there are basically no physiological effects that I'm aware of anyway. Um, except it makes you hungry and sleepy. Well, I suppose the high is a physiological effect, but there's no like physiological after effects. Is what I mean by it. But yeah, and it's non-addictive. Um, so yeah, like if I had an addiction to cannabis that were anything like the order of magnitude that nicotine addiction is on, like I would now have to go to the nearest town to try and score bud instead of just sitting here making this video. So I haven't smoked weed for like 2 days at this point. And well, that's not a very long time, but like I go through periods all the time, like a week without weed because I don't have enough time off work to be able to go and procure weed on my day off, which is like sort of becoming my routine now. Um, or like I I will forget to buy weed. That's the other thing about it. That's like how much of a loose addiction it is, if it's an addiction at all. Like I will forget to buy it. I will have the money to buy it, but I can't be bothered to buy it, or I can't be bothered to go like and track down a drug dealer like, who has got weed. I can't be bothered to fucking find weed. If there was a shop down the road that was selling weed, or like if weed were as easy to purchase as tobacco, I would probably buy weed every time I go. Well, I would, but like, I mean, I would buy it as frequently. I wouldn't buy it as frequently as I buy tobacco, but like the way that I buy tobacco it's just so slavish. Like I buy it religiously all the fucking time, and I could not live without cigarettes. It's a total need within me. Like living the level of weed addiction. This is what it's really comparable to. It's like an addiction to coffee. That's what it is. I've gone without caffeine for days on end before. It's like those aren't pleasant days. I'd far rather have a cup of tea or coffee. Um, I like trying to work without caffeine, like in this job in dairy farming. Like, I've gone like for whatever reason 1 or 2 mornings without a cup of coffee. Like that makes work really unpleasant, and it makes work very hard as well. It's just so much more tired without the caffeine. And yeah, so like when you have that experience of caffeine, I suppose withdrawal, it's like yeah, I really do want a cup of coffee. But could I live without a cup of coffee? Yes. In fact, what I'm going to say of weed addiction is I don't think weed addiction is even as strong as the addiction to caffeine. I don't think it's even as strong as that. I really don't. But like, yeah, obviously in life, and like weed, I think about it, in the UK, it's not legal here, so it's actually rather expensive. And like, if it were legal, like obviously what I'd be doing, I'd just be growing my own. And that I fucking hate to say is probably what I should have been doing for years on end anyway, just growing my own little stock of bud. Um, like when I was doing it with my parents, they wouldn't allow it, and like when I was living on my own, so landlords and so on, like just like keep it. You know what? I won't do that. I probably won't do that. I'm not going to do that here. I don't think. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's like what? Okay, if it is addictive, I'm tempted to say though, what isn't addictive then? Do you see what I mean? Like, is water addictive, or we need water to survive? Like, is orange juice addictive if you like orange juice? Is cake, well, that's addictive. Chocolate, that's addictive. Like, all those things I think are more addictive than weed. Or they're about the same in terms of like addiction level as weed. Like, what the addiction to nicotine is. This is a physical addiction. There's a physical and psychological component to the addiction. It is unbelievably strong. It compels you to smoke. And it compels me to do it all the time, or vape all the time, or whatever it is. It's very much like that. That is like a clear addiction. When I was drinking, when I was an alcoholic, like again, that is a very, very powerful physical addiction, physiologically addicted to it. It's very hard to break. It takes weeks to break an addiction, a dependence on alcohol. You have to slowly, gradually taper down the amount of alcohol you're consuming, otherwise you've got no hope of quitting at all. I haven't consumed alcohol regularly, as in I haven't consumed alcohol for more than one day. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never had more than about 4 consecutive days of drinking in the last year, I don't think. And I haven't consumed more than 10 drinks per month, I think, for the last 8 or 9 months, which is really good, I think, in terms of quitting alcohol. I'm very proud of myself for my, quitting of alcohol. But like alcohol, if I can have even one drink now, one, and like the next day even, it'll sneak up on me, the desire to drink. It's very, very insidious like that. Um, and alcohol makes me feel terrible when I do drink. It makes me feel terrible the next day. It makes me lethargic, unhappy, moody, aggressive. Um, Basically the opposite of everything that weed does for me. And when it comes to smoking weed, like I also do it medicinally. I have mental health problems, PTSD and OCD as a result of past abuse. Past abuse in my domestic situation when I was a young teenager, abuse, well, from childhood, in both households actually, and used to drink very much to compensate, or to focus on that. But obviously, yeah, hellishly, and it wasn't working. Or it would work in the short term, but the after effects in the long term were just far too great to for it to really be a sustainable solution. But the thing about cannabis use is it's a sustainable solution in the long term, because there are no after effects with cannabis. I'm not convinced there are anyway. When it comes to all this bleating nonsense about psychosis and cannabis, like, I don't believe it. I don't see where these people are who are using cannabis who are getting psychotic episodes. I really don't believe. I know exactly what it is. Also, it's kind of this effect whereby psychiatrists like to say, if you so much as mention that you've ever smoked cannabis, they say, "Oh, it's down to cannabis." They're like, well, it is an old wives' tale. It's medical gobbledygook nonsense. It really is as well. I don't know how to best describe it or what the sort of effect is, but there's a kind of like a bandwagoning effect with psychiatrists, and they're just all on the same bandwagon, not wanting to rock the boat or wanting to sort of self-congratulate that they managed to yet again diagnose psychosis on the basis of someone having puffed on a fucking doobie once via the the myriad, well, the several categories by which psychosis is diagnosed or diagnosable. And there's even been experiments of this in the 1970s with people being admitted falsely to psychiatric hospitals, where they were just saying they heard a single voice in their head, this word thud. They all got diagnosed with schizophrenia, a psychotic illness. So it is basically possible to diagnose someone with a psychotic illness at any point for any reason. That's sort of the point that I want to make. Like, when it comes to the diagnosis of psychosis anyway, like, the way it's diagnosed is so unbelievably squiffy, so arbitrary, so lacking in rigor and objectivity and repeatability, and like the ability to critically evaluate a diagnosis in terms of objective fact and what can be demonstrated with the scientific method. Like, there's nothing like that at all. It's just like, psychosis, I think it's slightly psychotic. You get all this something like slightly psychotic. Like, what are you talking about? Really? There's just vain, wishy-washy arbitrariness and opinion, nothing more than that. But no, back to the addictiveness of cannabis. Like, I'm struggling to see how it's as addictive as coffee. But like, for all intents and purposes, coffee is the opposite thing to compare it to in terms of its addictiveness. I think it really is about as addictive as coffee or chocolate. Like, do I want to go without a morning without a cup of coffee? Not really. That's the truth. Like, I don't want to go a morning without a cup of tea or coffee. Like, I'd rather not go a day without a fucking spliff either. Since like, it's never gonna kill me. It doesn't give me any more mental health problems than I suffer from. It alleviates the mental health problems I already suffer from. There's a fantastic calming effect on me. It makes food taste better. It makes me happier anyway, and and upbeat. It aids my creativity as well. It allows me to write and to write better, I think, particularly with poetry. Yeah, like it makes me feel good. And it takes the edge off. It takes the edge off the stresses of the day. It takes the edge off the stresses of the ongoing mental health issues that I've had going on for years and years. But no, like, this, I think there's kind of like a health freakishness, an undercurrent in society that sort of wants us to abnegate ourselves of everything that's pleasurable. And like, anything that could cause pleasure must, by almost like necessity, be harmful for us. I don't see how that is the truth. If it's pleasurable, it's bad. But I mean, there's different sorts of pleasure, though, isn't there? There's and the way I also watched a video about Seth Rogen talking about his experiences with smoking cannabis, and he smokes weed every single day, apparently, and has since he was 20. Like, good for you. I'm also like jealous of that. Like, good for you having had the ability to smoke weed every day since you were 20. Given the opportunity, I certainly would have done, but I've had to, by the way, because it's so much harder to get hold of in the UK. I've had to go long periods without smoking weed. I've gone weeks, months without it. And then the opportunity to smoke comes up again, and I find someone who can get hold of some weed. Like, yes, fucking please get me some weed. Yeah, definitely. I love weed. I think, like, the illegal drugs, my opinion of this, like, the illegal drugs are the best drugs. Or, like, they're the best drugs for you as well. And this has been noticed also in the research literature. It's now come to light that psilocybin, my favorite drug, I think, psilocybin mushrooms, like, probably also the least harmful drug for you. And then I just said my favorite drug. It probably goes weed. Now, weed's my favorite. It's so varied. And psilocybin is sort of the same thing each time. You know very much what to expect if you had a few mushroom trips. But with weed, like, all sorts of subtleties with it, sativa and indica and different potencies, different strengths, a completely different experience with edibles. And this is another thing. Like, I also quit weed often because I do notice I'm building up a tolerance to it, and then I need to quit for a few weeks to lose the tolerance, then go back to smoking again so I can get high. because I love being high. But yeah, so yeah, or like what really would have happened, like I suppose like for most of my 20s, I was like smoke weed, but then like at the end of the first quarter rounds, it was like I'm not feeling it so much anymore. And by another quarter, then I'll start smoking like I built up a tolerance to it. I've got to stop smoking weed. And you do get that, yeah, you do. But I mean, then again, like here, weed's too expensive to buy regularly. It's also that's the thing. It's too expensive to keep buying it every day. I mean, if you can get hold of it, even if you can get hold of it, yeah, it's too pricey to keep buying it. So I get periods like where just like it's not so much that I don't have the money either. It's just I don't want to spend the money. Do you see what I mean? Like, oh God, I've spent a lot of money on weed recently. Like, no more. No, this is pointless now. Well, yeah, I guess pointless because you build up the tolerance. I'm gonna end up saying the same thing over and over again in circles. But yeah, like no, it's a pointlessly easy addiction to break. Like I think I've managed to glean enough about the sorts of people who do like make like they don't have this in their lives. They don't understand what an addiction really is. They've never been an alcoholic. They've never been a junkie, and like crucially, I think they've never been a cigarette smoker. You don't know like what an addiction is until you've been a smoker. No, you don't. Like, oh, I'm so addicted to. Oh, shut up! No, you're not. Like, I'm so addicted to cereal. I'm so addicted to milk. Fuck off. You're not addicted to milk, you fucking idiot. You just like something. Like that's the distinction that we need to draw between weed addiction, which is not it's just a liking of weed. That's what you think the addiction is. Just like I like chocolate or ice cream. So, like, I have a hankering for ice cream every now and then. I'm an ice cream addict at the moment, just to digress slightly. I've taken to this, like, in my 30s now, like, bizarrely, every time I go to the shop, I just feel like buying an ice cream for myself. It's madness, isn't it? It's stupid. Like, I go get myself a little double gold caramel billionaire. That's a really good one. The Star Chaser is also delicious as well. That's a toffee and popcorn flavoured Walls ice cream, I think. And then the classic Solero. I'll have one of those from time to time. Nice and cheap, a Solero is, actually. But yeah, like I'll do this every time I go to the shop now. I'll buy an ice cream for myself. I start buying ice cream for my fridge because sometimes I just want ice cream. And like weed addiction is sort of like, but yeah, now I've noticed I've been buying ice cream for a few weeks. Like I keep doing it. I keep doing it. Am I an addict? Or do I just like ice cream? I think it's because I like ice cream because I've been smoking a lot of weed. So I'm using ice cream for munchies. Which isn't like best for munchies actually. What you should really do if you've got like ice cream to hand and the munchies, you get a blender, blend the ice cream up with some fresh milk, make milkshakes. That's really what you should do. Try it, you'll be glad you did. But weed addiction, like okay, like there are real addictions. There's this one thing. This is a serious addiction. This is addictive as heroin. Alcohol is not far away from it either. Alcohol is not as addictive as cigarettes, but it's highly addictive. Alcohol is a dangerous addiction because it's very hard to break it. Breaking an addiction to weed is like, oh, I don't want to go 5 days without weed. Oh, I can. Easy, obviously. And that is an addiction to weed. Or an addiction to weed is like, when I was living in Benevolence, smoking weed every day, loving life, obviously, because I get to smoke weed every day. And then I, for instance, go back to the United Kingdom, and then, like, I forget, right? I don't buy weed. or like I forget to smoke weed. That that is the level of weed so-called addiction. There is no such fucking thing. And like when it comes to this cannabis hyperemesis syndrome stuff and all that, like the desperate, cloying nonsense of the health establishment just to try and suppress what has been a naturally occurring medicine for used for thousands of fucking years by our species, out of their sheer unbelievable and banal ignorance of it. And the medical benefits of it now are just coming to light. So we've known about it for thousands of fucking years. And yeah, doctors, health freaks, cunts, the ignoramus of the modern world just don't listen to any of that shit. Cannabis hyperemesis syndrome is like the level of science involved. Like, for instance, if there was a plant that existed in nature that we knew reliably caused insanity, or if it would cause vomiting if you withdrew from using it, smoking it, no one would use it, no one would touch it. They really wouldn't either. Insanity is a terrifying thing to have to face. But yeah, I mean, I could go on. It's already 21 something minutes now. I think I've said what I want to say about weed addiction. It's nonsense.